Now back to Smoke on the Water for more Straight Up with Sturge.
All right, welcome back in. It's 8:05. Mark Sturgis, Price Atkinson, and our next guest, somebody would claim that he is the voice of the Carolina Panthers. Others might say that Mick Mixon is the drummer in the Franklin Street Band and he stays in the pocket. Hey, Mick, we look hard to find a little bit of honky-tonk woman from the Franklin Street Band to bring you into tonight.
Oh, God. I recognize it. That was from, I can't remember, that was from an Alive After 5 or something we played last summer. But, man, I appreciate you having me on, Sturgis. Great, and that's a nice touch there coming back with the Franklin Street Band.
Absolutely, and quite frankly, I think we decided we've got y'all one or two gigs this summer down here in Greenville, South Carolina, when all's said and done.
Oh,
so,
we will travel. We've played Savannah, Charleston. I mean, we've played Virginia. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get on an airplane, but if we can drive there, we're all in.
All right. Well, like I said, I sat there through YouTube, and I listened to about 25 different songs there in that clip, and I found that one because I'm a Rolling Stones fan. And then, Mick, real quickly, I used to do live sound for bands when I was cooler. And drummers here's the thing on drummers, Mick. You only pay attention to them when they're outstanding or terrible. You know what I mean? If they're in the pocket like you are, you're just doing your job, and there's something to be said for that.
Oh, coming from you, that means a lot. I appreciate it. I don't sing a note. I don't try to play Buddy Rich's entire career in one gig. I don't twirl sticks. I just sit back there and try to let my fellow musicians do their thing.
Yeah, that's your wife singing it, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, you didn't hear you heard her singing background on that clip, but my wife, Dawn, we actually just went on Facebook. I swore I would never go on Facebook, but about a month ago I finally said, all right, I'm not personally going on Facebook, but the band has it. So if you go on Facebook, the Franklin Street Band, if you like us, we'll like you back.
All right, good deal. Well, speaking of out-kicking your punt coverage, Mick, when it comes to marriage, after two painfully close losses to begin the season against Seattle and Buffalo, something has clicked for this Panthers franchise. Won 5 of their last 6, 4-game winning streak. The only thing in there that's been a little bit of an aberration was that one trip out to Arizona. What do you think it was that clicked there in game number 3 against the Giants?
I think we were close the first couple of weeks. I think that this team has got a couple things going for it right now. One is Cam Newton's playing some of the best football of his career. That clock in his head is working just right. When that back foot hits, if nothing's open, he's going to figure something out. He's either going to run or throw the ball away or do something other than let the other team have it. So Cam Newton's playing great, and he's a terrific runner, can make plays from the pocket. This Panther defense is very, very salty. The front four with 4- and 5-man pressures, they're getting some push, collapsing the pocket, getting sacks, making it a little bit easier for the guys in the back to do their job. And then special teams are much improved. With Ted Ginn giving the Panthers somebody opposing teams have to scheme for, Mark, it's really been fun because the Panthers are not doing this with sleight of hand. This isn't like other teams are just coming in and lying down. The Panthers, this just in from the news desk, we're pretty good.
Mick, Price Atkinson sitting in with Mark tonight. Let's stay on the defensive side of the ball for the Panthers. The last 2 drafts, I think you could really say have been a success for the Panthers, especially with taking Luke Kuechly up the middle at linebacker, and certainly this most recent draft with the major additions that we so needed up the middle on the defensive front at defensive tackle. With the Panthers especially have had a little bit of the weakness here in the last year or so in the secondary. Do you think some of these young guys, especially up front defensively, and honestly a guy in Greg Hardy, who I thought was a great pick a few years ago, who's finally got healthy and really doing what he could do on the defensive end, do you think that this defensive line, who's just become, as you said, so salty, has really kind of, helped cover a weakness, so to speak, in the secondary?
I do. In fact, I would be in favor of having T-shirts made throughout the upstate. We can sell them that says the price is right. I think you're right on. It's people who follow Panther football for a while harken back to defensive lines gone by that featured Julius Peppers and Al Wallace and Brenson Buckner. I know you guys have heard of Buck.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Chris Jenkins, Maake Kemoyatu D-line. and there are a lot of. I'm not big on comparing different eras and different players and all that, but I mean I bring it up only because many longtime observers of Panther football, some people with whom I work at the stadium, are saying this is the best D-line since that group and those groups, and maybe even better. And it's versatile. The Panthers have a deep and talented D-line, and the Panthers are substituting like they have depth there. You'll sometimes see 3 ends and 1 tackle. You'll see 3 tackles and 1 end. You'll see a lot of line games, a lot of tango techniques, a lot of twist stunts. You'll see Greg Hardy line up. Maybe sometimes he'll be with the hand on the ground on the quarterback's left side. Sometimes he'll be up the middle, sometimes on the right. And the Panthers defensively are a handful right now.
Now, we're speaking with Mick Mixon, the voice of the Carolina Panthers. And, Mick, I have followed the Panthers from season number 1 here in Clemson because as a family we have season tickets. The one issue that I was worried about on the offensive side of things going into this year was the receiving corps. But 5 different receivers have led the Panthers in receiving yardage through 8 things. I think that's a good thing, but is that a bit of a surprise to you?
It kind of is. It's totally different from Spartanburg, and everybody was talking about Armani Edwards. Armani Edwards is a preseason player of the year. He's getting separation. He's catching everything. He's worked hard. He's gained weight, and on and on. And right now, Armani Edwards is on the Cleveland Browns. He's not even with the Carolina Panthers. So Brandon LaFell has had his unbelievable moments where he's made the circus catch, a ballerina act, and then he'll drop one, clank right off his hands when he's wide open. Steve Smith looks like maybe he's lost a step or two, but still a lot of receivers who start for other teams would love to have the speed that Steve Smith has now, with people saying that he might be slowing down with age. So I agree. It's kind of this is not a brand name Fortune 500 receiving corps. It's kind of a generic, off-brand kind of a receiving corps, but they're getting the job done right now, and it's pretty good value for the money.
Well, Mig, let's stay on that offensive side of the ball, and let's talk about the Panthers' offense. I think 3rd in the league overall, converting at a 3rd down clip at 47%. And I think obviously a lot of that starts up front with that offensive line, re-signing Jeff Handgartner today to take over, I think, a right guard with Chris Scott's knee sprain. But talk about the Panthers and still being able to run the game, average over 130 yards rushing per game with Jonathan Stewart out. Really, I mean, that injury, you would think that the Panthers would be putting up those kind of numbers, on the ground. But, I mean, Jonathan Stewart has just been a non-factor for this Panther team so far this year, still hurt.
No doubt, Price. He did play. He came back to play in the Atlanta game, and he was you wouldn't say he had a splashy performance, but it was very solid. Jonathan Stewart, second leading rusher in the history of Carolina Panther football, and he may be the best receiving back that the Panthers have ever had. He's a terrific receiver in the screen game, that check release action. He's good in pass pro, blitz pickup, and then he's got that heavy core and can make yards north and south. And his straight line speed from here to yonder is very impressive as well. But your point about the offensive line, I think, is well made, Price. This offensive line is smart. Whatever they might lack in overwhelming physical skill, it's a high IQ O-line. You take Jordan Gross, Travell Wharton, you take Ryan Khalil, you take those guys about anywhere in the world. They're technicians, they're tacticians. You can throw Jeff Handgartner into the mix, and he fits right in. So I think you're seeing this offensive line, even if they're not just pushing the defense right out toward the concession stand, at least they're not having blown assignments and having pass rushers come at Cam Newton scot-free.
Well, I want to show my full cards here, Mick, and I want to ask you about one guy specifically, my most favorite player on the entire Panther roster. And I don't think a lot of people know the story, Byron Bell's story, because of the position he plays at offensive tackle. But, I'm just captivated by the way he came into the Panthers organization out of New Mexico. Talk a little bit about Byron Bell, what he's brought to the team, and maybe just a real quick hit on his story, how he came to be a Carolina Panther.
Love to. Byron Bell played at New Mexico. He looks, to see him walk in the building, he looks as though he's just on his last legs, like he's just about ready to break down on the side of the road. He's kind of duck-footed. His feet turn out, and he just kind of shuffles along. He looks like a woolly tree sloth that has just come out of the wilderness, and he's now, what's he doing, and why is he walking into the players' locker room? Someone call security. But then when he gets on the pads, everything changes. He may be the most flexible big man in the league. He can do yoga, split. He's incredibly flexible. A really, really nice guy. It's rare that an undrafted free agent would even have a cup of coffee in the NFL, much less become a starter. But Byron Bell has done that, and he gets so mad. People think he doesn't flame on, he doesn't have the fiery personality, but those are people that don't know him, guys, because if he misses an assignment or if he gets upset, man, he can blow like Mount St. Helens.
All right, Mick, before we close up here, now Carolina's got that dreaded cross-country trip this weekend to take on the 6-2 49ers. What are your thoughts on the game this Sunday, and even more so because you travel with the team, how difficult is it for an East Coast team to fly across the country and perform on Sundays?
It's not too bad going east to west. You just kind of eat 2 dinners and try to sleep as late as you can, and then you're kind of on script. The problem is coming home. I mean, you get home and you don't know whether to have some eggs or have a cheeseburger or orange juice or a cold beer. I mean, you get all you schedule your body clock. Every living thing has a molecular clock, and if you really want to jack yours up, fly 3 or 4 time zones from west to east and see what happens, especially flying at night. But anyway, for the players, it's not that bad. They're young and resilient, and they can handle it. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, fellas, because San Francisco is good in the same ways that the Carolina Panthers are good.
Well, Mick, we really appreciate you joining us tonight. I guess, looking toward the end of the season here, I mean, you look at the schedule, I don't want to say the end, but the second half in the next 8 games.
Tough.
But, I mean, I look at just the road in front of the Panthers. Certainly love the position that we're in right now, but that schedule, having to play New Orleans twice, you have the Patriots on the Monday night game, you have the Jets coming in, and you have to go to Atlanta. So, looking at these last 8 games, what are your thoughts on what this road ahead is to a possible hope and a hopeful playoff berth?
Well, I'm not going to insult your sporting intelligence by giving you the one game at a time speech. You've already heard that a million times, but I think this cluster of games right here is going to be key. There's just no way around it. I mean, you can sugarcoat it, twist it around, spin it any way. But these next 3 games, the rest of November, is going to be clutch because you cannot go 0-3 in these last 3 games in November. That would be at San Francisco, hosting the Patriots, and then at Miami. Those are 3 very rugged games. But even to just get 1 of 2 or 1 of 3 or 2 of 3, will be, I think we keep the Panthers on schedule going into December. What do you guys think?
I think so because, those are 5. Here's the thing. You kind of look at those last 8 games, Mick, and you go at San Francisco, New England at home, the Jets at home, a home with New Orleans. But the reality is in the NFL, as evidenced last night, each and every one of these final 8 games is important because you never know what's going to happen.
Well, that's right. And, we still got Tampa Bay coming in early December. The Bucs almost beat Seattle at Seattle, but maybe that's one the Panthers can win. And the Panthers have had decent luck. New Orleans seems to be a different team when they get out of their dome. So I think there's some wins. There's some wins there. I think what we want to get to, though, is where other teams have to worry that we're on their schedule instead of the reverse. That's
right. That's a great way of looking at it. All right, Mick, tell our listeners where they can find you on Twitter and all your work. And, of course, one more chance to plug the Franklin Street Band is we're going to have you guys performing here in the West End where we do our broadcast from at Smoke on the Water for one of these events this summer.
Oh, man, that would be a joy. We would love that. And we're the band of the people. We're a low-maintenance band and do a good job, and we'd be honored. And I'm not on Twitter. I'm a curmudgeonly old school. I'm the easiest guy in Charlotte to get in touch with. If anybody wants to know anything about me or wants to talk to me, all you got to do is holler. So I don't believe in spraying the details of my personal life or opinions I have all over the World Wide Web. But I'd be honored if anybody wanted to email up or contact me through the Franklin Street Band on Facebook.
All right. Well, fantastic. And stay in the pocket. Have a great call on and a good trip out to San Francisco. Go get you some good chata this weekend.
That sounds good, Sturge and Price, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, and it's great to visit with you.
All right, thank you very much. That's Mick Mixon, the voice of the Carolina Panthers, a talented drummer as well. And I'm serious, we got all this stuff going on. Probably can't do Fall for Greenville Price because of the schedule. But sometime during the summer, I'm talking about really, it's a fun group. I enjoy my time on YouTube looking up stuff for the Franklin Street Band because they're not these young guys. They're just out there having fun. This is a side thing for them.
Boy, he talks about the people's band.
Yeah.
But, Mick Mixon, just what a people's guy. Just one of the nicest guys. Puts it out there, soft-spoken. He is who he is, and what a treat that was to get to visit with him for, the 15 minutes we had to talk Panther football.
That's right.
For personally, a huge treat
and,
for me.
And to be honest with you, Price, before we go out to break, I'm eating crow. I was extremely agitated the first two games of the season when they couldn't pull off wins. They gave up a win or a loss there at Buffalo on the game's final play. But, boy, they have turned it around this year. And they're not just beating people. They're beating them bad.
Yeah, and I got to be real honest, though. I still don't, offensively, I still don't feel like they clicked exactly as good as they can.
Yep.
I feel like, Cam Newton's got a cadre of weapons really at his disposal, and with Jonathan Stewart now just finally getting back, getting game action, I really think these guys can be hitting even a little bit better offensively. The defense is what it is. They're only giving up second in the league at 13.3 points per game. Outstanding.
Luke Kuechly was the best draft pick. I'm telling you, I thought he was the best player in that draft, and by the 15th, 16th year of his career down the road, I think people will agree with me. All right, we need to go off the break. When we come back, we're going to turn things around a little bit. Price is going to take over. He's got some questions for me. And we're gonna play a little stock market report here, I guess, here on Straight Up with Sturge. We are Talk Sports 104.9 FM, the